Stay tuned, everybody, because it's time for the Playin on Music Row podcast with your host, Fran. Heard each week on this station. And now, here's Fran.
Well, I want to welcome everyone today and our great guest, which is Jennifer Alverado, to Playin on Music Row. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Jennifer.
Well, thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, you have a big, long list of awards that you've received. And I think as a way to maybe introduce yourself to the listening audience, maybe you can give us a little bit of an idea of some of the awards that you've won.
Yes, ma'am. So a lot of my awards are songwriting based. That's what I love, is songwriting. I started out really with the country pop stuff back in 2021. Before that, I was mostly doing worship music. My first album was a contemporary worship CD that came out in 2015, but I never really pursued my own stuff. I was more based within the church and helped the worship group with things like that. We wrote several albums together, and then of course, when the pandemic hit, things happened with schedule and things shutting down and all of that. And so you're at home, and I had a lot of these songs that I had written over the years kind of just sitting in a pile on a shelf. And I thought, okay, I have nothing else to do. Let's send some of this stuff out and see if any of it is worth doing something with. And it kind of just took off from there. So over the past couple years, I've really jumped into the country pop stuff, the secular stuff, and started touring and pushing my own music. And with that, I've had the honor of being named Country Artist of the Year with Indie Star Radio. That was the very first radio station that started playing my stuff, actually, in 2021. And then I have received several honors with songwriting, World Songwriting Awards, Indie Songwriting Awards, and I'm up for 7 different International Singer-Songwriter Association awards, and that's taking place next week, actually, in Atlanta, and then also some Josie nominations.
Well, great. I know you had a big, long list. I knew you had a lot of time for that. Who are some of the writers and artists that have influenced you?
I would say my number one artist would be Reba McEntire. And while the performance aspect and the music aspect is one thing, I really have always admired her work ethic. I think she has an amazing work ethic, and I think that she has a lot to teach people as far as perseverance and just having that grit to keep going. And so I've always looked to her for that. And I think performance and vocal wise, people like Kelly Clarkson, Carrie Underwood, Artina McBride was a huge influence on me. Celine Dion, Whitney Houston. I like big vocals. And then also just songwriting wise, Tom Petty, the Eagles, Patty Griffin is probably one of my favorite songwriters. Just the way she's able to state things, and it comes off so naturally and so simplistically, but yet so complex all at the same time.
That's a great description. Now you have a song that's titled Curious, and we're going to play that, but I'd like to know, can you give us a little bit of idea of the background on that song?
Yes. So I actually wrote that for a friend. And essentially it's wanting to know more about somebody. In this case, just romantically want to know more about somebody. You have those feelings, you know that they like you in a way, and you like them in a way, but there's also that fear that comes across of just being vulnerable and not wanting to put yourself out there, because being vulnerable is a scary thing and you might get hurt.
Okay, but you're curious. Okay, here's Curious by Jennifer Alverado.
I can see you looking at me from across the room. With every single glance I get a little more confused. You shouldn't want me, I shouldn't want you. All of our reasons, we follow the rules, but all I keep dreaming about is me with you. Are you curious where this is going? Curious, I think you should know that when it comes to me and you, I don't know what to do, but I'm curious about you. Yeah, I know that we both agree that we should just be friends, but when our late night conversations get deep, I can't pretend. 'Cause I know you want me, you know I want you. Forget the boundaries, let's break our own rules. All I keep thinking about is me with you. Are you curious where this is going? Curious, think you should know that when it comes to me and you, I don't know what to do, but I'm curious about you. About you. One touch and I won't know what to do. One kiss will quickly lead to two. And if our guards all came down and we don't try to stop this now, do you ever wonder what could happen to? Are you curious? Are you curious? Are you curious where this is going? Curious, think you should know that when it comes to me and you, I don't know what to do, but I'm curious about you. Got me thinking about it. Got me thinking about you. Got me thinking about you. About you. Got me thinking about it. Got me thinking about you. Got me thinking about me and you.
Well, great. That's very good. I like it a lot. It's very a nice new sound, current sound. But you like that the idea for that song you said was actually from real life experience. Do you get your songwriting ideas any other way?
Honestly, a lot of my songwriting ideas comes from when I'm ticked off at something. So I write a lot when I'm mad about something and trying to process. So I would say that, but also I've had people that have sent me like ideas just as a challenge. They're like, oh, I bet you can't write about XYZ. And so I'm like, okay, let's try it. But also just even words, like people have sent me random words before the challenge. I like to be challenged with writing because to me, as weird as it sounds, writing for me is sort of like a puzzle and like a math equation or something, and you want to figure it out. And so that is one thing that I've always just loved about it, is that you start with like an empty page and then you have like this whole idea at the end and this whole creation. And so I love the creative process. And so I'm kind of up for whatever anybody throws at me, just to see if I can do it.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because when you first said it, you said, well, I got to do it when I get ticked off. I'm thinking, well, you got a whole pile of songs. You must get ticked off a lot.
No. I would say the ones that I feel I write the fastest are usually when I'm like processing, like when I'm emotionally just in a place, like even Curious, because like with Curious, it's an emotional song. So I think when I have that emotional push behind it, I tend to write a lot faster and more concise. Where with other things, I kind of explore ideas when I'm just kind of given just a prompt or something like that to write with.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. How would you describe your sound?
90s country had a huge influence on me. So vocally, especially, I think I will always have that kind of 90s country throwback. But I also grew up with like bands like Nirvana and Alanis Morissette, sort of that angsty, that feeling that comes with it. And so that's really what showed me how to write with just like this passion and this like raw emotion. So I would say somewhere between Alanis Morissette and Dina Carter is what I tell people. Like it's like kind of like soft and pleasant like Dina Carter, and then you like dive into the lyrics a lot of times and it's like punch you in the face like Alanis Morissette.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. Have you had any kind of training in songwriting, or just did it and said, "Oh, I'm good at this"?
Honestly, so I did some creative writing when I was younger. Like I had a few lessons with creative writing. But as far as songwriting, no. Of course, like over time, any little lessons I could take with like NSAI or some of the other ASCAP, some of those, like I've done some of those lessons. Also, I'm a member of NSAI, and so I think one of the good things with that is the different chapters. You get together with people and they kind of give you feedback, and that's been huge too, and helpful. But for the most part, no, I've never formally gone into like a training session on or lessons on songwriting.
Okay. Well, you have a song titled Catfish. Interesting title. In fact, I tell you why. There was someone I know very well, but many years ago, he was working at one of the big labels, and they used to have the piles where they just throw these CDs, cassettes in back then. And he came across, he saw these words on it, said, "How did they ever come up with that? They were throwing it away." And he listened to it, and it became a big hit. But because the titles are very interesting. So I'm curious as to Catfish. How can you give us a background on that and how that came about?
Yeah, so that song was actually in my trash pile, funny enough. I wrote it after I had like this bout of just song, I guess writer's block. And so I ended up I started thinking about, because I grew up fishing, and one of the things that I always heard about with fishing was catfish and the weird little noises they make and all of that. And so I heard that story. And then, of course, like MTV made popular the whole catfish trend of that show. And so really this song is just sort of based between those two things. It's very much based around fishing, but it has that spin on this person is a liar. So, yeah.
Okay. We're going to play Catfish.
Pictures of walking in your dirty boots. Anyway, a twist, and I'll still be the one to lose. Don't you get tired of lying? Do you even remember your name? Karma has a way of finding you when you get in her way. Acting like a catfish, making it think it's something that you clearly not. Using all of your tricks, hoping I'll take the bait in your little pond. But you're nothing but a troll, pulling your lines to break unsuspecting hearts. So if you think we're going fishing in the dark, You probably gotta keep a list of all the things you say. Soon your alibis are gonna come back to play. Don't you get tired of lying? Aren't you scared of being alone? The truth always comes out of hiding, even when you're thinking won't. You're acting like a catfish, making me think you're something that you're clearly not. Using all of your tricks, hoping I'll take the bait in your little pond. But you're nothing but a troll, pulling these lines to break unsuspecting hearts. So if you think we're going fishing in the dark, you've been catfished. Well, you've been catfished. You're twisting all these lines, thinking that you've won this game. But you're about to see it's you that's been played. Ha. You're nothing but a catfish, making me think you're something that you're clearly not. Using all of your tricks, hoping I'll take the bait in your little pond. But you're nothing but a troll, pulling these lines to break unsuspecting hearts. So if you think we're going fishing in the dark, but you're nothing but a catfish, making me think you're something that you're clearly not. Using all of your tricks, hoping I'll take the bait in your little pond. But you're nothing but a troll, pulling these lines to break unsuspecting hearts. So if you think we're going fishing in the dark, you better go and tell your no good cheating heart. It's been catfish, you're gonna be mine. You're gonna be mine.
Very nice. This is not a question. This is not a question I didn't have written down. So just another question.
Okay.
Where do you get your record your songs?
So I have a producer so I'm based in North Carolina most of the time. And then I do part-time in Nashville, but I have a producer that I've been working with for 7 or 8 years at this point. He's about 30 minutes away in a town called Morganton, North Carolina. His name's Ricky. And yeah, we've been working together for a long time at this point.
Well, he does a very nice job, I tell you the truth. Let me ask this question. How is your music career promoted? Do you have like people that help you promote?
So I was with a management firm last year. And I actually I kind of went back and was looking at like bookings and stuff like that, and I was doing 98% of everything. And so honestly, I'm kind of handling all my stuff at this point. I am working with somebody that I worked with for this last single, just to sort of try her out and see, just PR wise, sort of having somebody else help me, especially somebody who is Nashville based that maybe has more connections than I do at this point. But yeah, for the most part, I'm me, like I'm my team. So yeah.
Chief cook and bottle washer. Okay. That's what everybody gets started as.
Yeah.
When did you begin touring, and will you be touring in support of your songs? Do you have a plan to do that?
Yes, so I'm currently touring. I feel like I tour all the time, which is fine with me. I like being on the road. I like going to different places. Right now, I'm playing more around North Carolina, Virginia, Nashville, like this area. So Southeast. I was in California in May. I did a small tour out there. And then I was also in Texas in March. And I plan to go back to Texas next year, early next year, for some stuff. And then I'm also looking at going down to Florida, because I've had several people ask me about coming down there. So I'm probably going to make a stop in Florida and do some shows around Jupiter and around that area, just all around. And then also I've had some people ask about coming more up north, above Virginia. And so I'm looking at maybe spreading up that way too, but I probably will stay along the East Coast next year. Just because, like, I don't want to go too far too quickly to where nobody kind of can keep up. But yeah, so I sort of just go everywhere. And as far as promoting my music, yes, but I will say I also mix a lot of covers in at this point, because I'm just trying to sort of build that fan base, one show at a time, one person at a time.
Okay. So are your shows a one-person show, one-woman show, or do you have a band or anything?
So I do. Most where I'm traveling are solo gigs. And so I play guitar and I do my thing, but I also have a band. So a lot of the shows around here, some of the bigger shows, festivals, stuff like that, yes, I have a full band. And I have a band that I kind of call on when I need them. And the biggest reason is most of my band still has normal 9 to 5 lives. And so they are not really able to just go wherever and whenever. So I have to kind of plan those dates in advance and have a point to them. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I understand that, being in that situation. How can our listening audience find out more about Jennifer Alverado? Say they want to keep on top of where you're touring, your music, how to
Yeah.
get music.
So jenniferalvarado.com is my website, and on there's a link to all of my tour dates. Honestly, I update it every couple of days with something else. So it's a work in progress, but it definitely has dates through the end of this year. And also on there is a mailing list that you can sign up for. There's a blog that I try to keep up to date with. And then you can also connect over to my social media, which all of that is Jennifer Alverado Music. But there's direct links on the webpage to those different platforms.
And I've asked you a lot of questions, but is there anything that maybe I haven't asked you that you would like to say to the listening audience?
I would just say that if you are somebody who is in the music industry, whether it be a songwriter, singer, musician, just keep going, keep pushing through. Because it can be hard, especially when you're doing everything on your own. Sometimes you have those days of like, is it worth it? And I will say that if it's in your heart to do it, then yes, it's worth it, and you need to keep doing it. It doesn't matter even if everybody around you says no, if you have that dream, then you keep going.
Okay. Well, Jennifer Alverado, we want here at Nashville Broadcasting Network, I want to thank you for taking the time today to speak with us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No, you're quite welcome.